The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal, its walls reaching so high that the ceiling disappeared into artificial clouds. Representatives from 437 species sat in their designated areas, each section modified to accommodate different atmospheric needs, gravity requirements, and sensory preferences. Ambassador Zeth Ka of the Viridian Empire adjusted her translation collar and studied the ancient tablet displayed in the center of the chamber. The artifact floated in a protective energy field, its surface covered with symbols that predated most of their civilizations. The writing belonged to the architects, a mysterious race that had vanished from the galaxy over 50,000 years ago, leaving behind only ruins and cryptic warnings. "The translation teams have been working for 3 cycles," announced High Coordinator Voss Nell, his forearms gesturing toward the tablet. "What they have discovered concerns us all." A murmur rippled through the vast chamber. The Viridians' crystalline bodies chimed softly, while the gaseous Nephilim created small whirlwinds of anxiety. Even the usually stoic Cantor shifted uncomfortably on their perches. Zeth Ka had seen many artifacts during her centuries of diplomatic service, but this one felt different. The architects had been the most advanced species the galaxy had ever known. Their technology was so far beyond current understanding that most of their devices were still considered magical by many species. If they had left a warning, it demanded attention. "The tablet speaks of a great threat," Voss Nell continued, his voice carrying through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "A species that will emerge from the darkness between stars. The architects called them the Harbingers of Chaos and the Destroyers of Order." Dr. Yan Tith, the Council's chief linguist, stepped forward. Her 6-legged form clicked against the crystal floor as she approached the tablet. "The prophecy is quite specific about this species' characteristics. They will be carbon-based, bipedal, and possess unusual aggression levels. Most concerning, they will have an immunity to the architect's pacification technology." The chamber fell silent. The architect's pacification technology was legendary. It could calm entire star systems, end wars with a single broadcast, and had supposedly been the foundation of their peaceful empire. No known species had ever shown resistance to it. "There's more," Dr. Yan Tith added, her multiple eyes focusing on different sections of the tablet. "The prophecy states that this species will possess something called adaptive creativity. They will use tools and concepts in ways their original creators never intended. They will turn gardening equipment into weapons and medical supplies into explosives." Zeth Ka felt her internal temperature drop. The Viridians were known for their logical thinking, but even she found this concept disturbing. Most galactic species use tools exactly as designed. Innovation happens slowly, through careful research and committee decisions. The timeline suggests this threat will emerge approximately 50,000 years after the architect's disappearance, Voss Nell announced. "According to our calculations, that time period began roughly 3,000 years ago." The revelation sent waves of concern through the chamber. Some representatives began urgent conversations with their aides, while others called for emergency sessions with their home governments. Ambassador Kretor of the militant hegemony stood up, his massive frame casting shadows across nearby delegations. "If this threat exists, we must find and eliminate it before it can fulfill this prophecy. The hegemony offers our full military support for a galaxy-wide search." "The architect's warnings were never wrong," added Elder Nimsaw of the Ancient Order. "Our historical records show they predicted the void storm of Sector 7, the collapse of the Titanium Confederacy, and the Great Plague of Cycle 43. All came to pass exactly as foretold." Zeth Ka studied the tablet more carefully. The symbols seemed to pulse with their own energy, as if the message was actively trying to communicate. She had spent decades studying ancient languages and had never seen anything quite like it. "The prophecy mentions something else," Dr. Yan Tith said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. It speaks of this species' origin point. They will come from a system with a single yellow star, orbiting the third planet from that star. The planet will be mostly covered in water, with large land masses and a single natural satellite. The description was oddly specific. Most prophecies dealt in vague terms and metaphors, but this read almost like a scientific survey report. Several council members immediately began accessing stellar databases, searching for systems matching those parameters. There are over 12,000 systems that match those basic criteria, announced the Council's Astronomical Division. However, when we factor in the requirement for carbon-based life development, the number drops to approximately 800. Zethka felt a chill that had nothing to do with her species' physiology. 800 systems was still manageable for a galaxy-wide search, but the implications were staggering. If the architect's prophecy was accurate, somewhere among those stars was a species capable of threatening the entire galactic community. We should also consider the possibility that this species has not yet achieved space travel, suggested Dr. Yan Tith. The prophecy indicates they will emerge from darkness, which could mean they will develop faster than light travel during the predicted time frame. The chamber erupted into heated discussions. Some delegates argued for immediate military expeditions to all potential systems. Others insisted on diplomatic first contact protocols. A few suggested that the prophecy might be a metaphor rather than a literal prediction. Ambassador Zethka found herself studying the tablet's energy patterns. There was something hypnotic about the way the symbols seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. As she watched, she could almost see images forming in the spaces between the characters. "The architects included visual data," she announced suddenly, her voice cutting through the chamber's noise. "The tablet contains holographic information embedded within the text structure." Dr. Yan Tith hurried to her side, adjusting the viewing equipment to reveal the hidden images. Slowly, three-dimensional pictures began forming above the tablet. The first image showed a planet that matched the prophecy's description perfectly. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, with 7 major continents visible. White clouds swirled through the atmosphere, and a single gray moon hung in the star-filled sky. The second image revealed the planet's dominant species, bipedal creatures with smooth skin in various shades of brown and pink. They had 4 limbs, with the upper appendages ending in 5-fingered manipulators. Hair covered the tops of their heads in different colors and patterns. "They look almost harmless," whispered someone in the chamber. The third image changed everyone's perspective. It showed these creatures in various activities, constructing massive buildings that reached toward the sky, creating vehicles that moved without visible propulsion, manipulating tools with incredible precision, and engaging in organized conflicts using sophisticated weapons. But it was the final image that truly concerned the assembled delegates. It showed these beings in space, not just traveling between planets, but constructing massive installations around stars, reshaping entire worlds, and commanding fleets of vessels that seemed to blend technology with artistic expression. The image sequence suggests rapid technological development, Dr. Yan Tith observed, from primitive tool use to stellar engineering in what appears to be a very short time frame. Zethka noticed something else in the images. The creature's eyes showed an intensity she had never seen in any galactic species. There was curiosity, determination, and something that might have been hunger for knowledge or conquest. "The final image contains a timestamp," she announced. "According to architect chronology, these events will begin occurring now." The chamber fell into absolute silence. If the timestamp was accurate, this mysterious species was already beginning its expansion into space. They could make contact with galactic civilization at any moment. High Coordinator Voss Nell called for an emergency recess. As delegates rushed to contact their governments, Zeth-Ka remained behind, studying the tablet. She couldn't shake the feeling that the architect's prophecy was incomplete. There had to be more information hidden within the artifact. As the chamber emptied, she noticed that the tablet's energy field was fluctuating. The symbols were rearranging themselves, forming new patterns. A message was trying to emerge, something the architects had hidden so deeply that it would only appear when the right conditions were met. The new text was brief but chilling. They do not come as conquerors. They come as teachers. They will show the galaxy what survival truly means, and in doing so, they will change everything. Zeth-Ka stared at the words until they faded back into the original text. Teachers, not conquerors. But teachers of what? And why did the architects consider survival lessons to be such a threat? As she left the chamber to prepare her report, Zeth-Ka couldn't help wondering if the galaxy was ready to meet a species that had apparently impressed even the mighty architects. The prophecy suggested that contact was inevitable, and when it happened, nothing would ever be the same. In the depths of space, far from the council chamber, long-range sensors had already detected unusual activity in a system with a single yellow star. Ships were moving between planets, and energy signatures suggested a rapidly developing technological civilization. The prophecy was beginning to unfold, and the galaxy was about to meet humanity. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, Defiance, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace through the main view screen. 3 weeks had passed since they had detected the alien transmission, and her crew was still buzzing with excitement about humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. "Dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, announced Navigator Rodriguez from his station. All systems showing green across the board. Sarah had been chosen to lead this mission because of her diplomatic background and her ability to stay calm under pressure. As a former United Nations mediator, she had resolved conflicts between nations on Earth. Now she faced the much larger challenge of representing humanity to an entire galactic civilization. The transmission they had received was remarkable in its complexity. It contained translation algorithms, star charts, and an invitation to visit a neutral meeting station in the Kepler 442 system. The aliens had somehow learned enough about human language and culture to create a nearly perfect translation matrix. "Hyperspace tunnel collapsing," reported Lieutenant Davis. "Normal space in 3I2-1. The swirling colors faded, replaced by the star-filled void of normal space. Directly ahead, a massive space station hung in orbit around a lifeless rocky planet. The structure was unlike anything in human engineering, resembling a crystalline flower with multiple rotating sections. "That thing is huge," whispered Engineer Park from the engineering station. "Sensors show it's at least 50 kilometers across and home to multiple atmospheric environments." Sarah felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she studied the alien station. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, but now that it was happening, the reality felt overwhelming. "Incoming transmission, Captain," announced Communications Officer Wright. "Multiple languages, but our translation computers are handling it perfectly." The main screen flickered, showing a collection of alien faces. Sarah found herself looking at representatives from species she couldn't have imagined in her wildest dreams. There was a being made of what looked like living crystal, another that appeared to be composed of swirling gas held in a containment field, and several others that defied easy description. "Welcome, representatives of humanity," said one of the creatures, its voice coming through the translation system with a slight musical quality. "I am Ambassador Zeth-Ka of the Viridian Empire. We represent the Galactic Council, and we are honored by your presence." Sarah stepped forward, grateful for the months of preparation she had undergone. "Thank you for your invitation, Ambassador Zeth-Ka. I am Captain Sarah Chen. representing the United Nations of Earth and the human species. We're excited to learn about your civilization and hopefully establish peaceful relations. The aliens' crystalline features seemed to shift in what might have been approval. Your species has already impressed us with your rapid technological development. According to our observations, you achieved spaceflight only recently, yet your vessel displays remarkably advanced engineering. Sarah felt a surge of pride. The Defiance represented the best of human technology, incorporating innovations from dozens of countries and thousands of scientists. Humans have always been curious about the universe. When we set our minds to something, we tend to find creative solutions. That creativity is exactly what we hope to discuss, said another alien, this one with 4 arms and skin that seemed to ripple like liquid metal. I am High Coordinator Voss Nell. We would like to invite you to visit our station for formal first contact procedures. The docking process took several hours, with both sides being extremely careful about protocols and safety measures. Sarah selected a small diplomatic team to accompany her to the station, leaving the Defiance under the command of her first officer. The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that automatically adjusted its atmosphere and gravity to match human needs. The technology was so seamless that Sarah barely noticed the transition. "This way, please," said Ambassador Zethka, who had come to greet them personally. "We have prepared a suitable environment for our discussions." As they walked through the station, Sarah's team couldn't help but stare at the wonders around them. The corridors were filled with beings from dozens of different species, all going about their daily business with the casual efficiency of a highly advanced civilization. The meeting chamber was a marvel of engineering, with sections that could accommodate wildly different atmospheric and gravitational needs. The human delegation found themselves in a comfortable Earth-like environment, while their alien hosts remained in their own specialized areas. "Before we begin formal discussions," said Ambassador Zethka, "we would like to ask you some questions about human history and culture. This will help us better understand your species." Sarah nodded, expecting questions about human government, science, or philosophy. Instead, the questions took an unexpected direction. "Can you tell us about human warfare?" asked High Coordinator Voss Nell. Sarah hesitated. She had hoped to present humanity in the most positive light possible, but she couldn't lie about their history. "Humans have unfortunately fought many wars throughout our development. We've learned from these conflicts and now work together more peacefully through organizations like the United Nations." "What about human problem-solving methods?" asked another alien. "Specifically, how do you adapt existing tools for new purposes?" The question seemed oddly specific, but Sarah answered honestly. "Humans are very good at improvisation. We often use things in ways they weren't originally designed for. For example, we've turned farming tools into construction equipment, medical techniques into manufacturing processes, and communication systems into entertainment devices." She noticed the aliens exchanging glances that seemed significant, though she couldn't interpret their meanings across such different facial structures. "Can you give us a specific example of human adaptive creativity?" pressed Dr. Yan Tith, the insectoid linguist who had been quietly taking notes. Sarah thought for a moment. "Well, there's duct tape, originally designed for sealing air ducts, but humans use it for everything: repairing equipment, emergency medical splints, temporary construction, even fashion accessories. There's a saying on Earth, if you can't fix it with duct tape, you're not using enough duct tape." The silence that followed was profound. Several of the alien representatives seemed to be having urgent conversations through devices Sarah couldn't see. "What about human reactions to pacification technology?" asked Ambassador Zethka, her voice carefully neutral. "I'm not sure what you mean by pacification technology," Sarah replied. "Could you elaborate?" High Coordinator Voss Nell gestured toward a device that emerged from the chamber's wall. "This is a standard conflict resolution tool. It emits frequencies that calm aggressive impulses and promote peaceful thinking. All galactic species respond positively to its influence. The device activated with a subtle humming sound. Sarah felt absolutely nothing. Her team members also showed no change in their demeanor or behavior. "I don't feel any different," Sarah said honestly. "Should I?" The aliens' reaction was immediate and concerning. Several of them began speaking rapidly in their native languages, and Ambassador Zeth Ka's crystalline body actually changed color. "Captain Chen," said High Coordinator Voss Nell slowly, "your species appears to have a natural immunity to our most fundamental peacekeeping technology." "Is that a problem?" Sarah asked, though the aliens' reactions suggested it might be. "We need to ask about one more thing," said Ambassador Zeth Ka. "Human survival instincts. How does your species react when faced with extinction-level threats?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "Humans don't give up easily. When faced with disasters, we adapt, innovate, and fight back. During our ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and other catastrophes, humans survived by working together and finding new solutions. We have a saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going." "What about when facing superior forces?" pressed Dr. Yan Tith. "Humans have a long history of defeating larger, more powerful enemies through creativity, determination, and unconventional tactics," Sarah answered. "We study our opponents, find their weaknesses, and exploit them. Sometimes the smaller, more agile force can defeat the larger, more rigid one." The chamber fell silent again. Sarah began to suspect that this first contact meeting was not going as either side had expected. "Captain Chen," said Ambassador Zeth Ka finally, "we need to share something with you. Your species was predicted by an ancient prophecy left by a highly advanced civilization. According to this prophecy, humans represent a significant threat to galactic stability." Sarah felt her diplomatic training kick in, keeping her expression neutral despite her shock. "I can assure you that humanity comes in peace. We're explorers and scientists, not conquerors." "The prophecy doesn't describe humans as conquerors," said High Coordinator Voss Nell. "It describes them as teachers who will show the galaxy what survival truly means." "I don't understand how teaching survival could be a threat," Sarah replied. Ambassador Zeth Ka's crystalline features shifted in what might have been sadness. "Captain Chen, our galactic civilization has enjoyed peace for over 20,000 years. We've eliminated war, scarcity, and conflict through technology and careful social engineering. Our species have become comfortable." Sarah began to understand the implications. "You think humans will disrupt that peace?" "The prophecy suggests that humans will demonstrate survival techniques and adaptation methods that our species have forgotten," explained Dr. Yan Tith. "This could destabilize our carefully maintained social order." "But surely knowledge and new perspectives are good things," Sarah argued. "They help civilizations grow and improve." "Not all growth is beneficial," said High Coordinator Voss Nell. "Rapid change can cause chaos, and chaos leads to conflict." Sarah looked at her team members, seeing the same confusion and concern in their eyes. They had come expecting to join a peaceful galactic community, only to discover that their very existence was considered a threat. "What happens now?" she asked. "That depends on humanity's choice," said Ambassador Zeth Ka. "The Council is prepared to offer your species a contained world where you can develop in isolation, with access to galactic technology but limited contact with other species." Sarah felt a surge of the very determination the aliens seemed to fear. "And if we refuse?" "Then the prophecy will unfold as predicted," said High Coordinator Voss Nell. "And the galaxy will change in ways we cannot control." Looking at the assembled alien representatives, Sarah realized that humanity stood at a crossroads. They could accept isolation and safety, or they could embrace their nature and step into an uncertain future. The choice would define not just humanity's fate, but the destiny of an entire galaxy. 6 months had passed since Captain Sarah Chen's historic first contact meeting with the Galactic Council. Humanity had politely declined the offer of isolation, instead requesting permission to establish a small embassy station in neutral space. The compromise had satisfied neither side completely, but it had prevented immediate conflict. Dr. Marcus Webb, humanity's chief xenobiologist, was reviewing alien cultural databases when the emergency alert echoed through the embassy station. Red lights flashed as the automated systems announced an incoming priority transmission from the Galactic Council. "All human personnel to stations," announced Sarah over the intercom. "We're receiving an emergency broadcast from the council chambers." The main viewing screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Zeth Ka's crystalline features. Her usual calm demeanor was replaced by obvious distress, and her body's natural luminescence pulsed in erratic patterns. "Captain Chen, we require immediate assistance," Zeth Ka said without her usual diplomatic pleasantries. "The galaxy faces an extinction-level threat, and our traditional methods have proven inadequate." Sarah moved closer to the screen. In the background, she could see dozens of alien species in what appeared to be a state of panic. "What's the nature of the threat, Ambassador?" 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected an anomaly approaching from intergalactic space," Zeth Ka explained. "We initially believed it to be a natural phenomenon, but subsequent analysis reveals it to be artificial in nature and actively hostile." High Coordinator Voss Nell appeared on the screen, his 4 arms gesturing frantically. "The entity has already consumed 2 uninhabited star systems, converting all matter into some form of self-replicating technology. Our projections indicate it will reach the first inhabited worlds within 10 standard cycles." Dr. Webb stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. "What countermeasures have you attempted?" "Everything in our arsenal," replied Dr. Yan Tith, joining the conversation. "We've deployed pacification fields, harmony generators, and collective consciousness networks. The entity shows no response to any of our peace-oriented technologies." Sarah felt a chill of recognition. "You've tried to negotiate with it?" "Of course," said Zeth Ka. "Negotiation and peaceful resolution are the foundations of galactic civilization. We've transmitted cultural exchanges, mathematical proofs of sentience, even artistic presentations. The entity has ignored all communication attempts." "What about military action?" asked Commander James Park, the embassy's security chief. The aliens' reaction was immediate and telling. Several species representatives recoiled visibly, while others began agitated conversations. "The galactic community eliminated warfare over 20,000 years ago," Voss Nell explained. "We have civilian defense fleets for asteroid deflection and emergency rescue operations, but nothing designed for actual combat." Dr. Webb exchanged glances with Sarah. The implications were staggering. An entire galactic civilization had evolved beyond the need for military technology, leaving them defenseless against a hostile force. "We're transmitting all available data to your station," Zeth Ka said. "Perhaps human perspective can suggest solutions our species have overlooked." The data stream began immediately, flooding their computers with sensor readings, analysis reports, and tactical projections. What they revealed was sobering. A massive artificial intelligence of unknown origin, consuming everything in its path and growing stronger with each system it devoured. "This thing is using consumed matter to build more of itself," Dr. Webb announced as he studied the readings. "It's not just destroying planets, it's converting them into extensions of its own processing matrix." Sarah studied the tactical displays. The entity's approach was methodical and relentless, showing no signs of slowing or changing course. How much time do we have before it reaches a major population center? 7 standard cycles until it reaches the Kepler 442 system, Vosnell replied. Over 40 billion sentient beings live there. The number hit Sarah like a physical blow. 40 billion lives depending on finding a solution to a problem the most advanced civilization in the galaxy couldn't solve. We need to see this entity for ourselves, Sarah announced. Can you provide us with safe passage to the affected region? Captain, Zethka warned, the area is extremely dangerous. Several of our scout vessels have been lost attempting to gather close-range data. Humans have some experience with dangerous situations, Sarah replied grimly. Sometimes you need to take risks to find solutions. 3 days later, the Defiance approached the entity's current position, accompanied by a small fleet of galactic observer vessels. The sight that greeted them defied comprehension. What had once been a star system containing 4 planets was now a writhing mass of metallic structures extending across millions of kilometers. Geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly connected massive processing nodes that pulsed with energy beyond measurement. Jesus, whispered Navigator Rodriguez. It's like a mechanical virus that infected an entire solar system. Sensors are picking up massive electromagnetic activity, reported Lieutenant Davis. The thing is processing information at rates that make our quantum computers look like pocket calculators. Sarah studied the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. The entity was clearly intelligent, but it showed no interest in communication. It consumed everything in its path with mechanical efficiency, suggesting a single-minded purpose. Captain, called Engineer Park from her station, I'm reading something interesting in the entity's energy patterns. It's not just consuming matter randomly. There's a pattern to what it prioritizes. Sarah moved to the engineering station, studying the data streams Park had isolated. What kind of pattern? It always goes for the most complex structures first, Park explained. Planets with advanced technology, space stations, artificial satellites. It ignores simple asteroids and comets until everything else is consumed. It's feeding on complexity, Dr. Webb realized. The entity is drawn to organized, sophisticated matter. That's why it's ignoring natural phenomena and focusing on technological civilizations. Sarah felt the pieces clicking together in her mind. What if we're thinking about this wrong? Everyone's been trying to communicate with it or stop it through force. What if we need to redirect it instead? Redirect something that size? Asked Commander Park skeptically. Captain, that thing has the mass of several planets. Not redirect physically, Sarah explained, her excitement growing. Redirect its attention. If it's drawn to complexity and technology, what would happen if we gave it something more interesting than inhabited worlds? The idea was audacious, dangerous, and completely unprecedented. Sarah opened a channel to the Galactic Observer Fleet. Ambassador Zethka, we need to speak with your top scientists and engineers immediately. We might have a solution, but it will require every advanced technology your civilization possesses. Captain Chen, what are you proposing? We're going to build the most complex, sophisticated, and technologically advanced structure the galaxy has ever seen, Sarah announced. And then we're going to use it as bait. The next 72 hours saw unprecedented cooperation between human ingenuity and galactic technology. Using techniques that no species had ever attempted, they began constructing what could only be described as a technological masterpiece. The structure incorporated quantum processors from the Viridian Empire, dimensional manipulation technology from the Cantor Collective, energy systems from 12 different species, and architectural concepts that existed only in theoretical mathematics. This is insane, muttered Dr. Webb as he watched the construction through the viewscreen. We're essentially building a technological singularity and hoping an artificial intelligence will find it irresistible. Humans specialize in controlled insanity, Sarah replied. Sometimes the craziest plan is the one that works. The bait was more than just complex technology. Human engineers had suggested modifications that made the structure actively puzzle-solving, presenting algorithmic challenges that would require immense processing power to understand. "It's like the ultimate intellectual challenge," explained Dr. Park. "Any intelligence drawn to complexity and information processing would find it impossible to resist." As the final components were installed, long-range sensors detected a change in the entity's behavior. Its relentless approach toward the Kepler 442 system slowed, and massive portions of its structure began reorienting toward their position. "It's working," breathed Ambassador Zeth Ka over the communication link. "The entity is altering course." What followed was the most tense 18 hours in galactic history. The entity approached their technological bait with obvious interest, extending massive sensor arrays and processing tendrils to examine the structure. "It's trying to understand the puzzle," reported Dr. Webb. "Energy readings show it's devoting enormous processing power to analyzing our creation." "How long before it solves the challenge and moves on?" asked Voss Nell anxiously. Sarah smiled grimly. "That's the beauty of human problem-solving, Coordinator. We didn't create a puzzle with a solution. We created a puzzle that generates more complex puzzles every time you solve part of it. It's an infinite recursive challenge." The entity had encountered something unprecedented in its existence, a problem that became more interesting the more it was studied. Instead of consuming the structure, it began building extensions to its own processing matrix, dedicating more and more resources to understanding the ever-expanding challenge. "It's become completely absorbed in the puzzle," announced Dr. Yan Teeth with amazement. "The entity has stopped all aggressive expansion and is focusing entirely on intellectual engagement." Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. The entity began creating increasingly sophisticated structures, not to consume matter, but to build more powerful thinking machines. It was evolving from a destructive force into a problem-solving intelligence of unimaginable complexity. "The entity has essentially become a massive computational research center," Dr. Webb reported. "It's no longer a threat to galactic civilization. If anything, it might become the most powerful scientific tool the galaxy has ever seen." Ambassador Zeth Ka contacted the human embassy with formal gratitude from the Galactic Council. "Captain Chen, your species has saved billions of lives through methods our civilization could never have conceived. The ancient prophecy spoke truth, but not in the way we expected." "How so?" Sarah asked. "You have indeed taught the galaxy what survival means," Zeth Ka explained. "Survival isn't just about maintaining peace and order. Sometimes survival requires taking risks, thinking differently, and finding solutions that challenge everything you believe possible." High Coordinator Voss Nell added his thoughts. "For 20,000 years, our species have grown comfortable with safe, predictable methods. We had forgotten that truly desperate situations required desperate measures." Sarah looked out at the vast technological structure they had created, now surrounded by the entity's ever-expanding research installations. "Humans have a saying, 'Necessity is the mother of invention.' When survival is at stake, we find ways to turn problems into opportunities. The Council would like to formally invite humanity to join galactic civilization as full members," announced Zeth Ka. "Your adaptive creativity and survival instincts are exactly what our community needs." As Sarah considered the offer, she realized that the ancient architects had understood something profound about the nature of civilization. Peace and order were valuable, but they were not the same as survival. Sometimes growth required disruption, and sometimes the greatest threats could become the greatest assets. "On behalf of humanity," Sarah said finally, "we accept your invitation, but we do so with the understanding that we'll continue being human. That means asking difficult questions, trying unconventional solutions, and occasionally making everyone uncomfortable." "We wouldn't have it any other way," replied Zethka with what might have been an alien smile. In the depths of space, the entity continued its endless pursuit of intellectual challenges, no longer a destroyer, but a guardian of knowledge. The galaxy had learned that survival wasn't about avoiding change, but about adapting to it. And humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as teachers of the most important lesson of all, that sometimes the greatest threats can become the greatest opportunities if you're brave enough to see them differently.